Talk Radio. You're in to all things music.
Personally, it was all the stuff that I experienced that made me so pissed off to begin with that I was finally able to use in this creative way.
Right.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to the show, and thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you joining us every week, and if you missed last week's episode, you can hear it at entertalkradio.com/makingit, or go to our app and take us with you. So often I get asked questions about the creative process, so I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting relationship and career in the entertainment industry. You're really in for a treat, as I've invited some of my friends who are the best in the business to share their stories on how they have influenced actually music and art and culture in our lives. And I guarantee you're going to love it. So let's get started. My guest today is Michael Cole. Michael Cole is an American actor. His career includes the leading role as Pete Cochrane on the television crime drama The Mod Squad, which ran from 1968 to 1973. Cole has appeared in numerous films and TV shows, beginning in 1961 with a role in the film Forbid Them Not, followed by featured roles on Gunsmoke, Wonder Woman, The Love Boat, Chips, Murder, She Wrote, Fantasy Island, Stephen King's TV movie It, and General Hospital. His film credits include the 1966 science fiction film The Bubble, later retitled Fantastic Invasion of Planet Earth, The Last Child, which was nominated in 1971 for a Golden Globe Award, and Beg, Borrow, or Steal in 1973. Michael's stage work includes roles on Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Wait Until Dark, Death of a Salesman, and Dylan in America, just to name a few. Michael considers his greatest accomplishments to be his 21-year marriage to his wife, Shelley, and his 21 years of sobriety. Please welcome my guest today, Michael Cole. Hi, Michael.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You mentioned Shelley, and I would not be here if it was not for my wife.
I know that's true.
I think everybody does.
Yeah.
Because I've been an alcoholic for a long time, and she got me to go to Betty Ford's.
Right.
And that I get a little bit choked up when I think about it, but I am so lucky to have her and sobriety for 20-some years now.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you.
You're welcome.
You.
You said, just sort of in passing, you've been an alcoholic for a long time, but you're not kidding. You're talking about you started drinking when you were 9 years old?
Probably.
Or when you were a kid?
Yeah, as long as you're old enough to steal.
Right.
Just about.
So you mastered two skills at the same time as a young lad.
There's two places I would be right now if it wasn't for Shelley.
Yeah.
I'd either be in jail or drunk.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe both.
Yeah.
But I owe her. And I'd never call them fans.
You call them friends, don't you?
Yes. There's still a lot of them out there.
Right.
I'm so flattered and so moved. This is 50 years.
And are these fans, people that knew you before Mod Squad, or from Mod Squad have they followed you since? And
all the way through.
Yeah.
All the way through. We were together. There's what they call the Prime Nine.
Right.
And,
right.
And I love every one of them. We just became. I said, wait a minute. You're not fans. I mean, you're not friends. You are friends. You're not fans.
Yeah.
So let's start there and get all that stuff out of the way, because we really all are on the same page.
Well, one of the things that fascinates me about your life, and I know about your life because I read your book, which we will be talking about and you'll read a little bit from as we go, but also just us being friends. I know that you basically got shot out of a cannon when you ended up on a hit TV show. So everything, learning about fans and privacy, and all of a sudden becoming a public figure, and making money when you were living, basically squatting at a theater, and
was
on a bed that was a prop on a stage.
It was, yeah.
Like you come from. Let's talk about where you come from. You were born on the cusp of the Depression, in 1940, Madison, Wisconsin.
And I had my own depression.
Yeah, and you had your own depression.
Yeah.
You never met your biological dad. You grew up in your grandmother's house with your mom and your brother.
Didn't grow up.
Okay.
That's where we started. But my mother was fabulous.
Yeah.
To keep myself and my brother and her together.
Yeah.
And we went looking for him once. I can really remember when I was like 2-3 years old.
Yeah.
We went down to Dallas looking for him on a train. And it was rough. We didn't have a dime.
Right.
And
you and Mom and Ted?
And Ted, yes. Right. And anyway, we got down there and there was nobody around. So that was it. We had to go back to Madison, and it was tough. It was tough for quite a few years there. But
and when you say tough, I mean, you're not kidding. Like, you didn't have hot water in your grandmother's house.
No, we didn't.
There was a commode down in the basement
that would freeze.
Yeah.
And,
right, Madison.
In Madison, Wisconsin. The night I left I was married when I was 16. We can get into that.
Yeah, I mean, you dropped out of high school and got married and had a kid. 2 kids.
2 kids.
When you were a teenager.
16.
Wow.
What was I? I was going to say, we were talking about, I got married when I was 16, et cetera, et cetera. And we lived, when it's cold in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
It's cold.
Yes, sir.
The night I left, I got in a lot of trouble from time to time.
Hard to believe.
The night I left, it was 30 below.
Oh.
And I'd never had a cold in my life.
Right.
When it's 0, you're running around in your T-shirts. But I went to Vegas first for some reason, and then I got pneumonia from leaving Wisconsin.
And going to the desert.
Wow. Yes. But it was the right thing to do.
Right.
I met some incredible people there, and I've been an alcoholic for a long time, as you know. And being a bartender in Vegas really was the wrong place for me.
Yeah.
But I got to meet some incredible people. Bobby Darin was one.
Who you met while you were bartending?
Yeah.
So this was before you got known as an actor?
Right. And I said to Mr. Darin, I want to be an actor. And he said, Michael, do it now. Do it right now. Because if it's inside and it's burning, it's going to happen.
Right.
That's why you're here.
Right.
I said, thank you, Mr. Darin. And those words stayed with me for many, many years after I left Vegas and just slept under the freeways and did all that stuff.
Literally.
Yep. And I call it just like, hey, Jack Kerouac was on the road.
Sure.
Why can't Michael, you be on the road?
Right.
And So as I'm doing this, I started bartending, and a producer came in, was right across the street from a beautiful theater, the Huntington Hartford, and the cast would come in after the show, and they would be talking about acting and et cetera, and something started to really tingle, to ring in there, and feeling. There's a term in acting called emotional recall. And that started to really happen. Every tear, every heartache, every laughter is emotionally attached still in there. And so anyway, this producer came in one night from across the street from this theater, and he said, "Michael, I understand you want to be an actor. How did you?" Some of the cast told me.
Right.
And said, "I think you should go for it. I've got a good sense about this." And so he said, "But you have to study first."
Right.
Now, I hated school. I love education, but I hated school.
It's funny that you say that. And there is a difference. Sometimes, unfortunately.
Tremendous difference.
Right.
So he mentioned the magic name for me, which was Estelle Harmon.
Estelle, yeah.
And Estelle was
a beautiful acting coach.
Oh, man. She was a heavyweight. And I wasn't sleeping under, in the freeways and stuff. And we met, and she said, "Here." I just went over there. I didn't know who the hell she was, or really, or she said, "Here, take this." She handed me a page from All My Sons. It was an incredible movie, and written by Arthur Miller.
Right.
And she said, "Take this and come back in a couple minutes, and I'll read it with you." Because there's different stages for her classes. So I just went out there. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But it was about this guy, this bastard that was making airplanes and cheating a bit. And we lost a lot of pilots during the war because of his making money.
Right.
And I played his son in this scene. Estelle read his part. That was getting me really kind of pissed off whoa, and I started finding this character in 15 minutes or so. And I went back in, and Estelle was sitting there, and she threw me a couple of lines, and basically I forgot about the script. And I looked, but all of a sudden I was there in my heart.
Right.
Saying to Estelle, "You son of a bitch. You knew that these planes were defective. And you let them go out, and you let our guys, our American pilots, fly them so you could make some more money? Fuck you."
Right.
And I walked out. And geez, what was that all about? And Estelle, when I went back in, Estelle said, "I want you to stay." I didn't have a dime, but she just let me stay. And she said, "You don't have a room or anything, do you?" I said, "A room? I don't even have a jacket."
Right.
You can sleep on the bed that's on the stage at the workshop.
How generous.
It was beautiful.
But she also
never charged me a dime.
Never. But she's recognized a gift in you that you felt that you had.
Yeah.
I mean, you had an intuition.
Oh, it's not.
And you had a fire in your belly about it. But she saw that crystal clear.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. And
thank God for our mentors and teachers, the good ones.
Yes. They will find. Estelle found out with me anyway what the hell I was all about before I ever was on a stage. And I said to myself, Jesus, this is, well, she recognized
Right.
what was in there. And before I did. And she never tried to teach me, because if she tried to teach me, I would have been the first one to say, fuck you.
Right.
I'm out of here. Same as school.
I remember Michael reading a quote of yours that said, I always had a little test. If I didn't remember exactly what had happened in the scene, I knew it must be okay, because that meant it was natural. I wasn't thinking about words or lines.
For me, that was kind of my own actor's workshop inside my heart. And I learned that, and Estelle helped me develop that. And it really makes sense too. If you're worrying about the lines and stuff like that, you're going to say them, and that's going to be part of the line.
Right.
And you don't mean to say it.
Right.
Like that.
That makes sense.
And it's got to be the same with music.
So yeah, it is, very much so. Very much.
So I started, okay, this is really, it's almost scary to think back. In one day, one of the students at Estelle's Actors Workshop had a meeting and a reading at Paramount. And I'd never been in a studio, let alone work.
Sure.
And anyway, we went over there, and she did a scene, and the director was there. And he said, very good, guys, very good. And the girl went away off into the catacombs to get wardrobe and all that stuff like that. And I was leaving. And the casting director said, wait a minute, Michael. I want to talk to you. I didn't do it. I didn't do it, sir. and his name was Eddie Morris. He called me back in, and he said, I want you to take this, and he gave me a scene.
Right.
This was written by Sterling Silliphant. Come back later this afternoon, about 4 o'clock. Mr. Silliphant will be here. And I want you to read this scene. Find a partner over at Estelle's.
Right.
Well, man, I'm sweating thinking about it. Anyway, went back over to Estelle's and said, here, I didn't understand half of it. But it was going to be a series that Mr. Silliphant was going to do with Paramount. And I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. But in a way I was thankful, because if you know too much about the whole thing, you have a tendency to act that.
Right.
Instead of...
You're more in your head than your heart.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And so I went over the thing with Estelle. And then we went back over to Paramount, and sure as hell there's Sterling Silliphant. Man. An Academy Award-winning guy. He wrote a little thing called In the Heat of the Night.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And we did the scene. And it was about a young guy, a young writer, coming down from San Francisco. Who's going to break into show business. And he had a motorcycle, and the bags were full of scripts and stuff he'd written. So the scene takes place when I get to L.A., and I've got these scripts, and I basically tell everybody that you're full of shit.
Which was not the first or last time that you would actually say those words.
I was my own best enemy at those times. It was my James Dean period. Yeah. Brando was just changing everything.
So how did that go, that audition?
So I said, Mr. Sullivan, it was very nice to meet you, sir. Said, and he comes walking over to me. Shh, right about this far. And I'm looking at his eyes. I want to do this show with you.
Wow. That's great.
What? What?
Right.
And it just so happens that a great agent who had a beautiful stable was walking down the hall and sat in and happened to see that. This is one afternoon. He came up to me and said, Michael, you want to sign with me?
Your whole world shifted in that
In
one
a couple hours, like
moment.
yes. And I absolutely says, come up to my office tomorrow.
And also the coolest thing for me about this story is that shift that happened in that one moment was that moment that you just happened to go with a friend. It wasn't even about you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was on my way out, and they stopped me. And
So he said he wanted you.
yes. Now, Hollywood's a small town.
Mm-hmm.
Word was getting around. Excuse me, I gotta get a little sip
Of water.
Yeah. You know what I'm doing? I'm emotionally recalling that.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mouth is getting... Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know where the hell was I.
So the agent wanted to sign
Yeah,
you.
the agent wanted
Yes.
to sign. And phone rings.
Mm-hmm.
And the casting director picks it up and says, oh, Michael, it's for you. Who the hell knows where? Nope. What? He said, yeah, it's pretty important. I think you better talk to this guy. Said, hello? This guy says, my name is Howard Koch. I am the president of Paramount Studios. I want to see you tomorrow, Michael, because I want to set up a staging, and we're going to do a screen test for you.
It's kind of surreal.
One afternoon.
One afternoon.
Yes. And I didn't know what the hell was. Okay, thank you, sir. And they gave me, the casting people and the agent, whatever, gave me a reading to do that scene that we just did
Right.
for the screen test.
Right.
And so I ran over to Estelle's, the workshop, and she was standing out in front with a huge smile
already
on
knew.
her face. She already knew that.
Right.
And that's how it all started. But Mr. Sullivan, God rest his brilliant soul, got in a big argument with the networks and all that stuff, as artists do, as you well know.
Yeah.
And I finally went up to Sid's office, and he said something about, there's somebody I want you to meet now, because Sullivan has said this and that, and the casting people over at Paramount. His name is Aaron Spelling.
Wow.
Aaron Spelling, that's okay, I
Yeah.
don't care. I'm still in my James Dean.
You're still pissed.
Yeah, at the world.
Right. Just angry for the sake of being angry.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I never thought of it like, yeah. And first time I went into, see, I guess I have a history of fucking things up that could be absolutely great.
You had a history.
I had, yeah, thank you.
You've rewritten that one.
Thank you, Dick. And anyway, I go into Aaron's office. The agents finally had beads of perspiration all over and stuff like that. And I said, all right, I'll go meet this guy. And at that time, Aaron was getting ready to do a show. Mm-hmm. So I go in there, and Aaron is only about this big.
Yeah.
it's about this big around. And I said, hey, how you doing, Aaron? And I remembered exactly. He said, he launched into his pitch, if you will.
Was Danny Thomas there too?
No, Danny was not there
because he was one of the producers of the show.
Yeah, they were partners,
Okay.
but Danny was down the hall
Got
or
it.
wherever. And Aaron wrote it, actually.
He did?
Yeah. And so
That's great.
I said to Aaron, wait a minute, what's the name of this?
Uh-huh.
He said, Mod Squad. Oh, man. That's the dumbest shit I ever heard of in my life.
To Aaron Spelling, the writer
he was
and
sitting
producer.
Right there. I said, you know what? Find somebody, give me a goddamn part give me a motorcycle. Let me be a bad guy.
Right.
Whatever. Let me be me.
Right.
And I started to walk out, and Aaron jumped up on his desk, and he said, Michael, you are you. That's exactly what I wanted.
Right.
I said, I want you to do this. You're the first one I'm casting for this. And that's how it happened.
Wow.
And
that's how you ended up in Mod Squad.
I don't suggest that for any other actors, young actors to do
This is a little bit of a mentoring show. So, if you're wondering, don't do that.
I'm telling you, what I'm saying right now is what not to do. If you do just the opposite, you got a shot at it.
But it worked beautifully for you.
It sure did. And then, like the next day next couple of days we met Clarence Williams and Peggy.
So Clarence who played Link, was a Broadway actor.
Absolutely respected. We had done some of his stuff, Slow Dance on a Killing Ground.
Okay.
That's what he won an Emmy for it, or was nominated or something. And
Peggy Lipton also had a fair amount of acting experience
she
as well?
was under contract to Paramount at the time. And so Aaron had to really use tweezers to get her out of that.
Sure.
And anyway, the three of us, when we finally met, and it's in the book.
Yeah, but the moment when you all first met.
Do you want me to say that? Because it's in the book.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clarence and I were staying in a hotel.
Do you want to read it, or do you want to say it?
I'll tell
Just
it,
say it.
'cause I don't know. We're staying in a hotel on Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
I said to myself, man, this is a hell of a long way from where I used to drink in Madison, Wisconsin, standing on Sunset, waiting for you to get. Anyway, this little red Porsche, it was raining. This little red Porsche, James Dean type Porsche, comes screaming around the corner, fishtail, etc., and hit the brakes. And Clarence and I said, it's Peggy. And she said, come on, guys, get in. and man, okay, Peg. Nobody else on the street, dark, raining like hell. Peg reaches into her basket, or handbag, or wherever it was, pulls out a joint. I can say
like you do.
And rolls it perfectly
while she's driving and shifting
and the whole thing.
That's some math skills.
Porsche. And she passed it around, and at that moment, I'm convinced we made the Mod Squad.
Right there.
We were never, ever not loving each other.
Right, yeah.
And that was so powerful.
Yeah.
And that's what came across this on the screen.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And they had to write that. And I said, first of all, Aaron, I'm not carrying a gun.
Right.
We're not going to be undercover cops.
Right.
This is not Dragnet. He said, no.
Right.
It's about caring. And that really hooks me.
Right.
Because, and the rest kind of is TV history, really.
Yeah, it really is history. I mean, it's your personal history, but it's our cultural history.
Yes.
Because we came up with that show. I connected with it when I watched it.
That's so beautiful, man.
Oh, yeah, Michael. And
so beautiful.
And it's, and, I suppose I realized it at the time, but it just felt sort of very natural and right, and it was woven into the tapestry of the writing of the show and the acting. But you were covering racism, abortion, physical abuse.
Absolutely.
Like, let
alone the drugs.
Drug abuse.
Vietnam
War.
There was...
Like, it was a pretty fearless show.
Aaron fought like hell to get all that stuff in.
And
there.
you all took a lot of heat.
We did. There was some hate mail. I will never forget one time.
Yeah.
Like maybe 2-3 shows into the season. Ty Andrews, the guy who played the cop, our mentor, was shot. And Clarence has got to, in the desert, Clarence has got to take the bullet out. And it was hot as hell. And he's really trying to not to hurt Ty, but still get, and he was perspiring.
Yeah.
And I reached in, I ripped my shirt like that. I reached in, and a big head close up of Clarence, of course. I reached in and I mopped his brow, to keep the sweat from going in his eyes.
Like any friend or brother would do.
He was, Bang! The next day, there was hate mail from certain places, and it was, how could a white guy mop a black man's brow?
Wow. Yeah.
And I grabbed that, I wrote it down, and I ran down to Aaron's office. And I said, look, I know we're on the right track now.
So that didn't piss you off? It actually...
it just, the whole... We came back and the crew applauded everybody. Just like, it was...
That's fantastic.
It was really neat. And we went on for 5 years. Trying to right some wrongs. We had to plant a lot of seeds, though, and I think we did with that show.
Yeah, it was a different time in television.
Absolutely.
Where there were shows that were, some of them were even comedies, but they were pushing the envelope in our culture to create some sort of positive shift.
This was, and I've always said, we had to go on a PR tour, right? Clarence and I.
Not Peggy.
No, Peggy was doing her own stuff.
Right.
And there's this black guy and this white guy, right? And we were planning to go to 10, 15 towns and make appearances to sell the show. Second town we got in, we got in a big goddamn argument with the press people that were covering the thing. And one guy asked me something that really upset me. And I said, why do you bastards always have to try and make it racial? I swear to God, I never thought about racial shit before. And he said, how do I write that? Right. And ABC called and said, get these guys home.
Right, you couldn't be left unsupervised.
That's a good way to put it, yes. The Watts riot was going on then.
Right, yeah.
Maybe we started it.
I don't think you started that. No. You might have poured a little gas on the fire, but it was a fire that needed to burn.
Good, yes.
Yeah. I want to talk about your book. And the book is called I Played the White Guy. Great title. Kind of self-explanatory. But I want to read a description of the book that was written by Jennifer Aguilar in Goodreads. And here's what she said. This is a story of love. This is a story of love so deep as to conquer a 40-year addiction. In this story, Mr. Cole gives us an honest look at humanity, youth, and the gift of imperfection. A courageous and relatable trip through the detours a life takes. The author writes with an empathetic vulnerability that makes for great realism. The characters are fully human, especially his brother, mother, and amazingly strong wife, who ultimately gives him the final push to reach the mountaintop. It's engaging, heartbreaking, and uncomfortable, but also warm, uplifting, and gives you faith in the human spirit. One might even believe they're a better person for having read it. which really sums up the book. And I want to read one other quote from somebody who I know we were both touched by, Senator John McCain.
Very. Whoa.
And I was just watching part of the funeral the other day, and somebody read this quote of his, and it made me think of you.
Really?
He said, "Life without passion and love is a sad life." And that just spoke to me.
Sure does me.
Yeah.
No, I'm lucky enough to have found Shelley. Just have been sober for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I got choked up over that. That was pretty, can I just read something?
I would love that.
From the book.
Yeah.
This is me thinking about something. This is the way I had to wind it up. How are we doing on time?
We're good.
Okay. If there's one thing I've learned from this crazy, tumultuous life, with its stratospheric highs and suicidal lows, it's to live one day at a time. I have at least made peace with myself and let go of a lifetime of guilt and anger. I feel a tremendous sense of gratitude for the many blessings I've been giving. For the first time, things are truly as they should be, according to God's plan, not mine. Thank you for letting me share that. That's
this book, which I read, is it's a beautiful book, and one of the things, of course, it's fun to read the history of you and Gunsmoke and Mod Squad and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and all the out in the world things that we knew about you, but I really felt like I got to know who you are from reading this book. Like I felt like I knew you after I read it.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to do. And like I said, I quit school in 8th grade. I think I said that. So I really can't spell. And somebody said, as a matter of fact.
Are you a good reader?
Yes, once I get going.
Yeah.
But
like you enjoy reading?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But what a person told me, you're going to write a book, huh? Why don't you read one first?
That's a good start.
So cool. Yeah. That was beautiful.
That's very funny.
And so anyway, I just started to write down where do you start? Well, it's not a bad place to start at the beginning.
Right.
And I can read another passage if there's time.
Yeah. And Michael, did you write this book more for you, or was it to be of service and to help other people?
Both.
Both.
Absolutely both, because it's part of being an alcoholic to me.
And part of the recovery.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I wound up at the end talking about that. Shelley got me into Betty Ford.
Yeah.
And
that was a really courageous move, I think, on Shelley's part.
It was. I've never experienced love like that.
Although it might have been the only move at that point.
It was.
Too.
It was for her, too.
Yeah.
For her. And then I walked in a room, and I'd already been talking to this guy about getting sober and stuff like that.
This guy meaning a counselor?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there. Shelley's sitting there. It's another guy from, I think from SAG. Because they have a program. Oh, anyway.
Right.
I said, what's going on? I'm really busted.
Right.
And the counselor guy stands up and he says, Michael, whatever I can do for you, it's not working. I can't take your money anymore because you're still drinking. And it's wrong for Shelley, and it's wrong for everybody.
Right.
Especially yourself.
Right.
And within a week or something like that, Shelley was driving me down to Betty Ford's. And I haven't had a drink in like 23 or 4 years or something like that. And never missed it, because the power of her loving me and me realizing that was what it was to keep that or kill yourself.
Right. Because you found this remarkable woman that you loved and who loved you.
Absolutely. The night we met, we just started talking. A friend introduced us.
Right. You got fixed up, or
no?
You just got introduced.
You got introduced, and she was so pretty.
She still is.
Thank you. Yes, and so smart. We started talking about everything from the Lakers, the LA Lakers, to because she was a big person in advertising, like with Rolling Stone magazine and GQ and stuff like that. And, man, so smart.
Yeah.
That I didn't want it to end. I asked her if she would come up. I was living in the woods by myself, totally.
And when you
isolated.
say in the woods, did you have a cabin or a tent?
Yeah, cabin.
A cabin. Okay.
This was a couple of years, and it was literally a log cabin.
Right.
It was built in 1928. But anyway, Shell was a little leery about going up. Was that pop for us?
I do not know. Apparently.
She followed me up to the cabin, and she came in and we talked and played Bob Dylan's. What was it? A lot of Bob Dylan stuff. And knocking on heaven's door.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I felt like I was just doing when I was with Shelley.
Perfect.
I know it. It all came together. And she had to go. It was really getting late. She's got to get up in the morning. And so she followed me down the hill, and we stopped at the main street so she could find her way home. And I said, "Can I see you tomorrow?" I didn't want her to go. And she said, "It already is tomorrow." That's pretty witty. And
did you kiss her goodbye?
Yes. It wasn't goodbye, though.
Well, did you kiss her good morning or good night?
I just kissed her.
You kissed her.
Okay. And and I went back up to the cabin.
Right.
And waited a couple of minutes because she had to give her a chance to get home. And I called and left a message. I just wanted to make sure you got home safe.
Yeah.
And she called back, and that meant so much to her that it was to see her again.
Yeah.
And again. And again.
Right.
And again. And that was 20-some years ago.
So I love that story. So Shelley was the catalyst to get you into Betty Ford. And I know that from reading about it, that was not an easy experience or easy time, but you got through it together. And yes. I know in some ways that that must have brought you closer. But then you had another experience as a couple later involving cancer. I don't know yes, somebody told me, you've got cancer. I think
prostate or one of those things down there.
Right. Down there.
Yeah, in there somewhere. Been cut on so many times. It's what's left.
Right.
And they took it out.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember. So I think it got something to do with selective memory or something like that. Because Shelley came home the next day and said something about cancer. I said, what? Who? Me? Bullshit. I don't have cancer. I totally blocked it out. And there's a term for that. And we beat that.
Together.
Absolutely. But, now wait a minute.
Yes. Then the story gets even more interesting.
Shelley goes to the doctor.
Right.
I don't know how many months, a year later or something like that. She's got cancer.
Right.
I cannot lose this lady. I cannot lose this lady. She went and had hers done. Cancer-free.
Both of you.
Yes. That was from Ma.
What a blessing.
It sure was. This has been a blessing, my friend.
Michael, I have so many things that I want to ask you.
Me too,
and I just want to ask you a couple things really quick because we're towards the end of our show. Although
you said it was going to go.
Yeah. However, I'd love to have you back sometime, and continue the conversation. Tomorrow. That'd be fine with me. Before I get to my closing question, oh man, there's so much to cover. I want to just, actually, can you read this? This is from your book. It's from chapter 7, and it's about fame.
Wow.
Would you prefer I read it?
It's gonna... Fame is being a crossword puzzle clue. Fame is being an answer on Jeopardy. Fame is being on the cover of, this is one of my favorites, of Mad Magazine.
Mad Magazine.
Yes. Fame is some crazy shit. Before you know it, weird things begin happening to you. With fame comes money, and when you have money, you start buying stuff, and the next thing you know, people are trying to steal it from you. And if you're anything like me, you end up in your driveway naked, shooting your gun at a complete stranger who just broke into your car. Just a little more.
That's great. That's. I could do this all day with you. That's your life. I mean, it's been amazing. I did. Let me ask you a quick question before I ask my closing questions. When you started to become famous and started to make money, which was the complete opposite of the way you grew up and the way most of us grew up, did you have a financial advisor? Did you have a plan? Did you have people showing you how to save for this point of your life now so that you would be...
God. I did.
Okay.
And this agent that I mentioned before.
Right.
You got a business manager.
Good.
Otherwise, I would have been right back in Wisconsin.
Right.
At the same bar stool.
Right.
And...
so you got good counsel, good advice, good guidance.
Yes. I did. Thank God.
I'm glad to hear that. Let me end by asking you the closing question that I ask all of my guests. The first is a two-part question. This show is called Making It. What does making it mean to you both personally and professionally? And also, can you give 3 tips that have propelled your career? 3 tips, points of advice.
Yeah. Every time I've done a play, I've been asked to come out and talk to the students in the drama department, basically the audience. And I said, I want to ask you 3 questions. First of all, how many of you think you're a good actor? Everybody raise their hands. It's okay. If you're bullshitting, you're only bullshitting yourselves,
Right.
not me.
Right.
Second question is, how do you think you could handle yourself if you were on stage or in a film with George C. Scott? It's just not bad. Or Marlon Brando.
Right.
And you can really hold your own and give them something that they can come back at you with. And about a third or so of the people raised their hands. And I said, the last question is, how many of you, and please be honest, how many of you have no choice? Because it's what you are. And you know that as a wonderful musician. And maybe 3-4 people would kind of reluctantly raise their hands. That's who I want to work with.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, those are three great questions, and they actually they serve the purpose for what I was asking.
Okay.
What about making it? What do you consider making it in life, professionally and personally?
I never thought about it professionally, but
So personally.
yeah, like personally, it was all the stuff that I experienced that made me so pissed off to begin with,
Right.
that I was finally able to use
That's
in
beautiful.
this creative way.
Right.
And that I was really thankful for. There's I wrote something in there, but probably don't have time to. About being a kaleidoscope,
Right.
and that was me of all these emotions
Right.
and stuff like that. And finally, they were set in place
Right.
by acting.
And the acting allowed you, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is you I'm talking about, but it allowed you to turn that anger into passion or funnel it,
That's what Estelle
express it.
because Estelle
With passion.
had a lot to do with it,
Did
and
she?
so did Shelley.
Yeah.
Confidence in being loved.
Right.
I really couldn't be pissed off anymore
Right.
at a lot of people, just in general.
Right.
I'm loved. My spiritual side has been awakened. It's all. I wouldn't be here with you right now, Terry. If it wasn't for that. And now you're getting me choked up again because I'm just so bloody thankful.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing.
Thankful.
I
You know
I
what?
respect that in you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's people ask, how do you get to be there? How do you do this and all that stuff like that? You got to just follow your instincts. If it seems right, you got to do it. And it'll be right.
Right.
Don't give up. Stick your ass in the wind and don't give up.
Got it.
And if you don't, and there's some talent or something like that still beating inside you, it'll kill you.
Right.
Because it'll rip you apart. It's its own entity.
Right.
It will take your heart out and shove it down your throat. So just simply pay attention to those feelings that are inside and don't give up. Because there is no other way to go.
Yeah.
Other than knocking yourself off, alcoholism, drugs or something, just anything to cover.
Yeah.
To suppress that honest feeling. That's, I've been lucky enough to sense that.
Yeah.
And to learn it. Thank God for Shelley.
Thank God for Shelley.
Ooh.
Let me ask you our final question, and it can be a really simple one-sentence answer. At this point of your life, Michael, with everything that you know to be true, if you could, what would you tell your younger self?
That's a great question, because I've always had the feeling, wait a minute, if I wouldn't have done all this bullshit, I wouldn't have those emotions to pull out to act with.
Right.
So maybe nothing, except perhaps meeting Shelley sooner.
Don't forget to meet Shelley.
Yeah, but that's kind of true. I'll never forget the last time I was arrested.
Mm-hmm.
I was in jail, and I was 16 or something like that, 15, and my mother had to come and get me. And I had to, you through the glass, and you're sitting there in the orange jumpsuit, and I saw her, and she was crying, really crying. And even the cops started to tear up a bit. And I was very, very close to being sent away for a long time. But I'm sorry, I got emotional.
It's okay.
Yeah,
I want to thank you for being so honest and opening your heart and your book and your story. Everybody, Michael Cole, go buy this book. You'll feel like you really get to know this gentleman that's sitting next to me, and it's up on Amazon and any place you can find a book. And go watch some old Mod Squad episodes and all the beautiful work that you've done. Thank you for spending the hour with me. I really appreciate you.
God bless. Thank you.
You too.
Do you know the Irish prayer?
Tell us.
May the road rise up to greet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rain fall soft upon your fields. Until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. And may you be in heaven a half an hour before the devil knows you're dead. God bless. I mean that with all my heart, Terry.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, Michael Cole, thank you for spending the hour with us. And we'll see y'all next week.